Hi, Abby. I'm Janelle.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So what'd you come in and talk about today?
Okay, well, I'm kind of stuck. I don't really know what to do about a certain situation. My parents, I'll start off giving you kind of the story behind it because it's a situation, what's going on now, but it started off a few years ago. I think it was 4 years ago. The summer before my senior year, my parents decided they were going to get a divorce. So we moved out my summer before my senior year, and it really wasn't a big deal because I only had 1 year left. My sister's older than me, so she was already in college. So it really didn't affect her that much, the living situation and stuff. And however, my brother, it was the summer before his 8th grade year, so he was younger, and he had a few years left, so it affected him the most.
Right.
And also, my sister and I, since we were older and more mature and stuff, we had seen it coming, the divorce coming, and my brother didn't at all. So it was really, really hard on him. My mom thought he was going to need counseling because it just was a really rough time for him. And also, it doesn't help because my dad lives on a farm, and that was my brother's world. So when my mom moved out, he was torn between living with both of them, felt guilty if he wanted to stay with one of them and, instead of the other, all this stuff. So, clearly I was there for him, but he didn't really, talk to me about it because I was the older sister, whatever. So, eventually, he started to get, get used to it and get more comfortable with it and the living situation and everything. And, yeah, it still, sucked for him. He still had a really hard time with it because clearly his parents, it came out of nowhere pretty much for him. He knew, my parents would argue and stuff, but nothing where he would be oh, they're going to split up, something like that. But my sister and I saw it coming. So, anyways, a little over a year ago, my dad got a new girlfriend, which was really hard for my brother. And he was didn't know how to deal with that. So that stressed me out because my brother is the one that told me about it, and I didn't know what to say to him. I was more of at the age where it was well, good, he needs to move on, he needs to be happy. But my brother's no,
So it seems you're more, you're okay with the situation, but you're really concerned about your brother.
Yeah.
You don't know what he's really thinking inside almost.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think that he's feeling? If you had to guess, what would you
see? And back then he was more you could tell it bothered him. But then he started to warm up to her and was okay, she's not that bad. But I think it's just more of a fact because she pretty much has recently pretty much moved in with my dad. Now he's getting more negative than he was in the beginning. And I think it's because he's realized that my dad needs to move on and be happy, but it's it's in his house. You know what I mean? It's in she's living in my brother's house. She's living where he lived with my mom and my dad together. And now he has his own bedroom still, clearly, we all do. But I don't ever go there because I rarely go home, and if I do, I stay at my mom's. And he has his own bedroom set there, but he sleeps on the couch. It's almost he's not comfortable in his own room, acting like it's his own room because she's there, And so recently, my dad still hasn't paid off my mom her share, and my mom's got to the point where it's been 4 years, and she wants it because she wants to buy a house and all this stuff. Well, so now it's come down to he might have to sell the farm, and my brother for the first time a couple weeks ago talked to me about it, because my parents hadn't told him what was going on yet, and recently they did tell him. So he talked to me about it, and I just don't know what advice to give him or what to tell him. I did the best that I could, but it's just what do you tell a 17-year-old? Yeah, now he's going to be a senior, so he only has 1 year left, but he wants to live at home and go to school, go to college. because he wants to work on the farm.
Right.
Well, if my dad has to sell it, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, so do you think that it's hard for you to talk to him, maybe because you understand the situation more now? Like maybe you are more mature at that age than he was, like especially since you saw it coming, and somehow maybe he's feeling like he still feels that burden or something. Like
Yeah.
maybe he feels like your dad's girlfriend is like invading his like territory. Almost.
Yeah, and I think he does. When I think it was Easter, she like clearly like they do stuff with her family and my family. Well, it was the first time that like which my family has moved. Like I have aunts and uncles in Oklahoma and Montana. My sister's in Germany, so it's like I don't really have much of my other aunt passed away last year, so like my family has just kind of like slowly moved away and deteriorated. So for Easter, it was like just me, my brother, and my grandparents. But we went over to my dad's, and her whole family was there. My brother and I like went on a walk, and he was like, you could tell that he felt like they were like invading on him. Like it was only 4 of us, and then like 20 of them, and I could tell that it bothered him. But it's just like it bothers me to see that it bothers him. But it's like there's nothing that you can really do about it.
So it like bothers you to see him struggling with the situation, but does it bother you at all, like deep down? Do you think a little bit, or?
I think it does, not the girlfriend situation, but the fact that like he might have to like sell the farm bothers me. I mean, I grew up there and lived there for the first 18 years of my life.
That's like missing a part of your identity.
Yeah, like that's where, me and all my friends, me, my brother, my sister grew up, like, and which I came to the realization that, things are going to change, things are going to have to happen that, you don't want them to. So it's kind of like, yeah, it'll suck and it'll be sad, but the farm clearly was a big part of my life, but I like grew out of it to where I didn't need it, and I feel like my brother thinks he needs it because that's what he wants to do. He wants, like, his farm animals and, the tractors and the fields and all that, that's his life. So
right.
It's like, what do you say to someone who you have to like he's trying to be good about it, but I know deep down he's really, he's like, I understand, because he's at the age where he understands that mom wants her share and needs it, and like, clearly if that's going to have to happen, that's going to have to happen. But I know that like, he probably doesn't know how to deal with it necessarily.
Right. So if all that were to happen and you guys didn't have the farm and everything, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you think that he wants to do that because it's something he's comfortable with, like for the rest of his life? Or do you think there's other things that he's interested that maybe if the farm's gone, he would pursue something else?
I don't know. I really have never thought of that. But I think that it really is his passion. Like, he wants to, my dad clearly, like, my dad is a farmer, that's what he does, and he has his own excavating company, which is another good thing, that if he has to sell the farm, he has that still, and which he could, if he sold the whole farm, then he could buy something, something else, not so big, because he lives on like 130 acres or something, so it's like you could get something not so big for sure. So, but it's like my brother, I think his real passion, he wants to farm, but he wants to go to college and get like an agricultural business degree to like help him with the business aspect, because he's
right.
seen how my dad hasn't really had that business experience, so he hasn't really been like responsible with his money. Clearly that's what's put him in this situation, but it's just hard because it's your little brother. He, for the first time, is like talking to me about things. It's like, I don't really know what kind of advice, what do I say? I'm out doing different things. If the farm goes, it's going to be sad for me, but it's not going to affect my life so much where he feels like it will affect his.
Right. Maybe life is about change. Maybe you could give him advice on like how to deal with change. I'm sure you've dealt with a lot of change in your life, like good or bad, and maybe that's a chance for him to start fresh and pave his own path instead of just taking over what's already there. So maybe that's an opportunity for him, like turning a negative into a positive almost.
to like grow and maybe go find his own. Like even if he wants to do the same thing, it doesn't have to be my dad's.
Right.
It can be whatever. Yeah, well, that's a good idea. I've never thought of that. Like I tried to just like make him feel better about it, but it's like
Right.
deep down I don't know if I really am. He's just like making it seem like I am. So I don't really.
I don't know, that's a tough one, like how to even approach it. I'd probably just try a lot of things and see which one he responds to the best.
And like I don't see him that much, so he's only talked to me about it once since he's actually found out, because it wasn't that long ago that he found out that, you know, he could be losing the farm or whatever. And he seemed really like surprisingly mature and like okay about it, but that's what I'm like, is he? Or is, you know, like you can only like say so much to make him feel better, but deep down I know that it's bothering him. So I don't know. Now that he's like coming to me for advice, I want to know what I should, you know, what to like tell him and what advice to give him.
Right. I think you'll just have to do your best.
Okay, well thank you for listening.
You should come back in next time. I'm sure we have more to talk about.
And I can let you know how my advice giving goes.
There you go. Yeah, I would love to know how it's going for you.
Okay.
All right, thanks.